They're all gone now.
My mother-in-law's voice came through the phone. She sounded pleased, almost too happy. I got great deals for my friends at the club. You should be thankful I handled everything while you were away, she said. I held my coffee mug tighter, trying to stay calm. I was looking out at the calm, blue waters of the Black Sea from my hotel balcony in Italy. I was there because of a research fellowship I had received. It was supposed to be my big chance to carry on my father's important work in marine biology. But instead of focusing on my research, I was listening to Jessica proudly tell me that she had sold something very important to me. She had sold all of my father's boats. They were just sitting there collecting dust, she went on, clearly enjoying herself. 10 luxury boats. It was such a waste. At least now they will be used properly. My name is Barbara Walters. I am 35 years old, and today I found out that my mother-in-law sold my father's collection of boats. These were not just any boats. They were the pride of his life. He had spent many years restoring them and turning them into floating research stations. Each boat was fitted with special tools and equipment that he had built himself to study the ocean. His work was known and respected by scientists all over the world. I took a deep breath and asked calmly, "Did you take care of the paperwork?" She paused, not expecting the question. "Paperwork? Oh, don't worry about all that," she said, laughing. "Cash deals are so much easier. Your father was always so serious about documents and rules. Such a waste of time." I forced a smile, even though she could not see me. "Thanks for telling me, Jessica. I have an early meeting tomorrow, so I need to go now." "That's it?" she asked, clearly surprised that I was not yelling or crying. "You're not upset? These boats were worth millions, and now they're gone. Just like that." "Just like that," I replied, and I ended the call before she could say anything else. As soon as the call ended, I picked up my phone and dialed another number. It was a number I had known by heart for years. "Harbor Master Samuel? This is Barbara Walters. Has anyone tried to move my father's boats?" "Mrs. Walters, I was just about to call you," he said in his familiar voice. "Some people showed up this morning with cash, claiming they had bought the boats. I told them they needed the proper papers and transfer forms. They were not happy about that." "Perfect," I said, finally feeling a little better. "I understand," I said, feeling a heavy weight lift off my shoulders. "The security system we put in place is still active," the harbor master continued. "No one can move those boats without your electronic permission and the access codes. Your father made sure of that before he passed." He paused for a moment. "Should I be worried about these people?" "No," I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. "But please keep the security cameras on. I have a feeling they might come back." After hanging up the phone, I opened my laptop and clicked on a bookmarked link that said Walters Fleet Security. A few seconds later, 10 live video feeds popped up on my screen. Each one showed one of my father's boats, still safely docked in their spots at the harbor. I took a deep breath and watched carefully. Everything looked just the way it should. My father had installed a top-level security system before he died. It wasn't just meant to protect the boats themselves, but also the very expensive research tools on board. These boats were not just for show. They were part of something much bigger. My father, Dr. Scott Walters, had not only been a marine biologist. He was a leader in the field of ocean conservation. Each boat in his fleet had a special job. One collected deep-sea samples. Another studied coral reefs. Others measured pollution and tracked sea life. He had created his own tools and equipment for each task. The fleet was worth millions, not just because of the money, but because of what they could do for science and the planet. Jessica, my mother-in-law, never saw the boats that way. To her, they were just fancy toys. Expensive status symbols that she could sell to her rich friends at the country club. She never appreciated the work behind them. And she was angry that my father left everything to me, instead of her son, my husband, Larry. But my father had explained it to me clearly before he died. "The boats need to stay in the family," he had said. "But more importantly, they need to stay with someone who understands why they exist. Your work, your passion, it's what I've always believed in. Promise me you'll carry it forward." I had promised him, and I meant it with all my heart. That's why I had accepted the research fellowship in Italy. I was studying the same coral reefs in the Mediterranean that he had once worked so hard to protect. What I didn't expect was for Jessica to try and sell the boats while I was gone. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text message from Larry. It read, "Mom just called me. She's furious. She says, you've got some kind of high-tech security system on the boats. Why didn't you tell me?" I stared at the message for a moment, then smiled. The boats were safe, for now. I let out a deep sigh. Larry was a good man, but he had always found it hard to stand up to his mother. He worked in finance, a completely different world from mine, and my late father's work in marine biology. Jessica, his mother, had used that difference to her advantage. She would often whisper things to him, telling him I was wasting the boats, that they could be sold for money to invest in something more practical. She never understood what those boats truly meant. I picked up my phone and typed back a reply to Larry. "Your mother has been trying to sell the boats ever since Dad passed away. The security system wasn't even my idea. It was his. Check your email. I just sent you today's video footage." A few minutes later, my phone rang. It was Larry. "Oh no," he said. His voice sounded shaky and unsure. Is that my mother trying to break into the cabin of the research vessel?" "Yes," I said simply. "And that's her friend Karen trying to hotwire the Colorado Springs." "But she told me you agreed to sell the boats," he said, confused. "She said you signed the paperwork." "There are no papers, Larry," I said gently. "She lied. She sold boats she had no right to sell. She took money that didn't belong to her." I tried to keep my voice calm and soft. I knew this situation was difficult for him. He wasn't the one at fault, but he needed to understand how serious this was. "What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice quieter now. "Nothing yet," I replied. "The boats are safe. Because of Dad's planning, they can't be moved without my electronic permission. But your mother's friends just handed over cash for boats that were never legally for sale. They may want to think twice about what they've done." Almost right on time, my phone buzzed again. Jessica was calling. I didn't answer. I let it go to voicemail. I already knew what she would say. She would be furious. She would probably threaten me, maybe even accuse me of stealing. She would definitely try to make it seem like I was the bad guy, like I had cheated her friends out of their money. But what she didn't have was the truth. I had proof. I had video footage. I had all the legal documents. And most importantly, I had a promise I made to my father. The boats were never meant to be sold. They were part of his life's work. They were tools for science, meant to help us learn about and protect the ocean. They were his legacy. And I was not going to let them become toys for Jessica's country club friends. Not now. Not ever. I opened the security footage again and watched closely. There was Jessica trying to get into the boats. She looked frustrated, tugging on locked doors and shouting into her phone. What she didn't know was that every move she made, every angry word she spoke, was being recorded. My father had made sure of that before he passed away. The security system was not just for show. It was smart, quiet, and always watching. Jessica believed I was just the quiet daughter-in-law, a scientist who spent too much time in the lab and wouldn't notice what was going on back home. She thought I was too focused on coral reefs and underwater research to protect my father's legacy. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I opened my email and began writing a message to my father's lawyer. I attached the security footage. I also included the report from the harbor master, who had already written down what happened when Jessica's friends tried to take the boats. Even the phone call Jessica made to me from the night before was recorded through my hotel room's security system, another one of my father's smart precautions. "It's time to show them what happens when you mess with the Walters," I whispered to myself, hitting the send button. The real fight was just starting. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of messages on my phone. Voicemails, texts, even emails, all from Jessica's friends. These were the same people she had sold the boats to. Now they were panicking. They were angry. They were demanding their money back. One voicemail after another came in, each one more desperate than the last. Some threatened lawsuits. Others said they would ruin Jessica's reputation at the country club. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I forwarded everything to my lawyer. adding to the growing pile of evidence. Every message helped prove the truth. Just as I was getting ready for my research dive that morning, I got a call from Harbor Master Samuel. "Mrs. Walters," he said, "you'll want to see this. Your mother-in-law is here, with the police." I quickly opened my laptop and switched to the live video feed. There she was. Jessica stood at the harbor, waving her designer purse around, pointing at my father's boats. 4 police officers stood beside her, looking uncomfortable. "She's stealing from us," Jessica shouted. "Those are the boats my friends paid for." One of the officers spoke in a tired voice. "Ma'am, we've looked at all the documents. These boats are legally owned by Dr. Barbara Walters. There's no record of any sale. But I have witnesses. My friends paid cash." The officer replied firmly. "That would mean they tried to buy something that wasn't yours to sell. Would your friends like to file police reports about paying cash for stolen property?" Jessica's face changed instantly. Her red, angry expression turned pale. Reality was finally sinking in. That's not what they were just sitting here," Jessica stammered. I watched on the live video feed as the police officers calmly explained the situation to her. They told her that trying to sell property that didn't belong to her was called fraud. Taking money for something you don't own was theft. And since she had also tried to break into the boats, there could be even more charges coming. Everything had been caught on camera, every move, every angry word. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Larry. "Mom just called me crying. She says you're having her arrested." I quickly replied, "I'm not having anyone arrested. She tried to sell stolen property and got caught. The police are simply explaining what happens when you break the law." He wrote back, "She says she was just trying to help, that the boats were going to waste." I closed my eyes and slowly counted to 10. I needed patience. "Larry," I typed, "she sold 10 boats worth millions of dollars. She sold them for far less than they're worth. And she didn't have the right to sell them at all. That's not helping. That's stealing." There was a long pause before he answered again. "I found cash in her house. Over $900,000. She told me it was a surprise, that she was going to give it to me to help me start my own investment firm." My heart sank. Jessica had always known exactly how to control Larry. She used his dreams and desires to make her actions seem kind and helpful. In reality, she was just using him as an excuse to get what she wanted. I typed back, "The boats aren't just money, Larry. They're research vessels. They're what Dad spent his life building. They're part of our future. They're not just things to sell." "I know," he replied. "I'm sorry. I should have seen what she was doing." Before I could write back, the harbor master's voice came through my hotel room speaker. "Mrs. Walters, your mother-in-law is demanding to speak with you. She says it's urgent." I sighed and switched back to the security feed. Jessica was now sitting in the harbor master's office. Her hair was messy, and her perfect makeup was smudged from crying. A small part of me wanted to ignore her, to let her face the results of her choices. But I knew we had to talk. "Put her through," I said. A moment later, Jessica's voice came through the speaker. It was soft and overly sweet, nothing like before. "Barbara, darling," she said. "There's been a terrible misunderstanding," Jessica said, her voice soft and sweet again. "I was only trying to help. Those boats were just sitting there doing nothing. So much money just going to waste." I didn't let her finish. "Those boats are not sitting there," I said firmly. "They're being used for important marine research. They're filled with custom-made scientific tools, millions of dollars worth of equipment. They are not toys for your friends." She paused, then tried again. "But surely we can work something out." "The money." "The money?" I cut her off again. "The money you took from your friends for something you didn't own? The money you were planning to use to win over Larry? That money needs to be returned, Jessica. Every single dollar." Her fake kindness slipped away in an instant. "You're just like your father," she said bitterly. "So full of yourself. Always talking about science and research. Do you even care about your family? Do you know what people call you? The Ice Queen, because you care more about fish than your own blood." Her words were sharp, but they didn't shake me. I thought about my father. He taught me to swim before I could walk. He showed me how the health of the oceans mattered to the future of our planet. He warned me about Jessica. He knew she might do something like this one day, and he made sure I would be ready if she did. You're right about one thing, I said quietly. I am like my father, which is why I won't let you destroy what he built. I'll tell everyone what you did, she snapped. How you tricked my friends and embarrassed them. Go ahead, I said calmly. Tell them everything. Tell them how you sold boats that didn't belong to you. Tell them how you tried to break into the vessels when the security system blocked you. And tell them how you planned to use their money to bribe your own son. I'm sure they'll be very understanding. I watched her face on the security camera. It slowly crumbled. She knew she had gone too far. Her friends had given her large amounts of cash. Now they had nothing to show for it, and she had no legal defense. The social reputation she had worked so hard to build was about to fall apart. What do you want? She asked, barely above a whisper. I want you to give every cent back to your friends, I said clearly. I want you to admit what you tried to do. And I want you to stay away from the boats forever. And if I don't, then I press charges. We have security footage, voice recordings, and proof of everything. It's your decision. Just then, the harbor master came back on the line. She's leaving now, Mrs. Walters. Want me to send the footage of her exit? No need, I said. I've seen enough. I watched the screen as Jessica stormed off the dock, her high heels clicking loudly with every angry step. Her fancy purse swung at her side, and her face was red with frustration. Just make sure everyone knows, I said to the harbor master through the feed. These boats are not for sale. Not now. Not ever. A new message popped up on my phone. It was Larry. I just talked to Mom. She's furious. She says you're ruining her life. There was a short pause before another message came through. I told her she ruined it herself. I felt a wave of pride and relief. Maybe, just maybe, something good would come from all of this. Larry sent another message. I'd like to learn about the boats, the research, about what Dad was really trying to do. If you're willing to teach me. I smiled and looked out at the calm black sea outside my window. The moonlight reflected on the waves. I'd like that, I typed back. We can start when I return. Later that night, just as I was about to go to bed, I got one last message from the harbor master. Your mother-in-law's friends have been calling nonstop. They all want their money back. Looks like they're not too happy about being involved in a possible crime. I could imagine the scene at Jessica's country club. Her perfect image falling apart. Her friends angry and embarrassed, realizing they had been tricked. She had told them this would be easy money, buying and used boats at a great price. But now they saw the truth. Still, that wasn't my problem. That was hers. My father had trusted me to protect his life's work. And I had. The boats were safe. The research would go on. And maybe, just maybe, I had helped Larry see through his mother's games and manipulation. Tomorrow, I would go back to my research, diving deep into the waters to continue the work my father had started. The boats would stay where they belonged, helping science, not serving as toys for the wealthy, just as my dad had wanted. 7 months later, I stood on the deck of the Colorado Springs, one of the boats Jessica had tried to sell. The sun was shining, and the ocean sparkled all around us. Larry stood beside me, adjusting his diving gear. He had kept his promise. Every weekend, he studied marine biology and learned how to care for and operate the boats. He worked hard, and I could see how much he had changed. Remember, I called out to him with a smile, we're just checking on the new coral growth today. No fancy moves. Larry grinned, nodded, and gave me a thumbs up. It felt good. Not just because the boats were safe, but because, in the end, the right people were on board. Larry gave me a thumbs up. Even with his diving mask on, I could see how excited he was. It was hard to believe this was the same man who used to call his father's work an expensive hobby. Back then, he was fully focused on the world of finance. He never thought much of marine biology or the boats his father had worked so hard to build. But now, here he was, ready for his first real dive as part of our coral research project. The mess at the country club had gone exactly how I expected. Jessica's friends had been furious when they realized the truth. They thought they were getting a great deal. Instead, they found out they had nearly taken part in a crime, buying boats that didn't legally belong to Jessica. They quickly demanded their money back and even threatened to sue her. The fallout had been fast and brutal. Her perfect social life fell apart almost overnight. "Mrs. Walters," Harbor Master Samuel said, walking over with a clipboard. "All 10 boats now have the new security upgrades. And you'll be happy to know that Mrs. Timothy hasn't returned to the marina since the restraining order was put in place." For months earlier, Jessica had made one last desperate move. She had shown up at the marina in the middle of the night, drunk and angry, holding a set of fake keys. She tried to unlock one of the boats, but the security cameras caught everything. This time, there had been real consequences. She was banned from the marina, and the law was finally on our side. "How's the equipment calibration going?" I asked, checking the monitors we had installed last week. "Perfect," Samuel replied. "Your father would be proud of what you've done. The marine biology community is really paying attention now." He was right. Thanks to the high-tech tools on the boats, we had been able to study coral like never before. We recently documented surprising changes in coral growth in the Black Sea. Our findings were being shared by scientists all over the world. In fact, we had just received a new research grant, larger than any my father had ever gotten during his lifetime. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Karen, one of Jessica's old friends. "Barbara, I wanted to apologize again for the boat situation. Jessica told us we were helping the family. I should have known better." Ever since the truth had come out, several of Jessica's friends had reached out to me. Many of them had realized they weren't the only ones Jessica had lied to over the years. "Ready?" Larry called out, adjusting the straps on his oxygen tank. "Almost," I said, walking over to check his equipment one more time. This would be his first official dive with the team. We were heading out to document coral restoration, a project we had started 4 months ago. As we prepared to dive beneath the waves, I felt proud. The boats were finally being used the way my father always intended. I stood on the deck of the boat and thought about how much had changed. Jessica, after all the trouble she caused, had been forced to move to Colorado. Her reputation had been ruined, and she was no longer welcome in the social circles she once loved so much. From time to time, she still sent emails, sometimes filled with anger, other times trying to act friendly and make peace. But Larry had learned to set boundaries. He no longer let her control him. "I can't believe I never saw what Dad was really trying to do with all this," Larry said, smiling as we came up from our dive about an hour later. His face was full of energy and wonder. All those years, Mom kept saying he was wasting his money on these boats. But look at what they can actually do. He was right. These boats had become more than just a way to continue my father's research. They had helped bring healing to our family. Larry had found a new love for marine science and conservation, and it brought us closer than we'd ever been before. Our marriage had grown stronger through this shared purpose. "Your father knew exactly what he was doing," I said, helping him climb back onto the boat. "Not just with the research, but with the security too. He knew someone would try to take them someday." "He knew my mother would try," Larry said with a small laugh as he pulled off his diving mask. "I found some of his old journals in the Colorado Springs' cabin. He wrote everything down, how she tried to convince him to sell the boats, how she always complained about the cost of the research equipment, and even how she threatened to challenge the will after he died." I nodded, remembering how careful my father had been. He had planned everything so well. He made sure the boats were protected by legal documents, security systems, and trusted people. He didn't just want to protect the boats from being stolen. He wanted to protect them from people who didn't understand their true purpose. The harbor master walked over with clean towels and 2 cups of hot coffee. "The afternoon's data looks great," he said, smiling. "The new coral beds are showing strong growth. Dr. Walters would have been proud to see this." I looked out across the water at the fleet, 10 research vessels, each one carefully designed for different ocean studies. I felt my father's presence more than ever at that moment. Jessica had only seen the boats as a way to make money. To her, they were nothing more than status symbols she could sell to her friends. But she never understood what they really were: tools for discovery, for helping the planet, for protecting the oceans. Next week, we would begin training a new group of young researchers. The work would continue. The boats were right where they belonged, serving science, just like my father had always intended. As we packed up our gear after a long day on the water, I looked at Larry and said, "Dad always wanted these boats to support a full community of marine scientists. Now they finally will." Larry smiled at me, and for the first time in a long while, he looked truly at peace, like his real self again. "Mom called again yesterday," he said quietly, not looking up as he placed his diving fins into the storage bin. "She wanted to know if we'd consider letting her friends lease the boats for summer vacations. She said it would help fix her reputation." I raised an eyebrow. "And what did you tell her?" "I told her that some things are not for sale," he said firmly. "That Dad's legacy deserves more respect than that." I told her I finally understand what he was trying to do, and that I think I'm becoming the kind of person he always hoped I'd be. I reached out and squeezed his hand. I felt so proud of him and deeply thankful for how far we had come. Jessica's attempt to take the boats and turn them into something they were never meant to be had failed completely. And in the end, her selfish actions had led to something unexpected, something good. We had become stronger as a family. We had found a shared purpose. And we had gained a new understanding of my father's wisdom and careful planning. As we made our way back toward the marina, the sun was setting. The sky was painted with soft pinks and golds, and the water shimmered in the fading light. The 10 research boats gently bobbed in their spots, lined up side by side. Their security systems were still active and working quietly, keeping watch like silent protectors. These boats weren't just tools for science anymore. They had become symbols of something bigger. They were proof that standing up for what is right, especially when it is hard, is always worth it. Sometimes, protecting what truly matters means saying no, even to the people closest to you. Especially to the people who try to use family as an excuse to take what doesn't belong to them. Dad had known that. He had prepared for it. And now, so had we. The boats would go on to help new scientists, new students, and new research teams. They would teach and inspire others, just like they had inspired us. And they would continue doing what Dad had always dreamed they would do, helping the world understand and protect the oceans. As we walked side by side toward the parking lot, I glanced back at the boats one last time. They were safe. They were home. And we were finally ready to carry his work forward, together.